Okay, welcome back, everybody. I hope you had an enjoyable lunch break and had a good chance to chat with each other. I certainly enjoyed a few good conversations with various people. So we're into the final hour, which we're very lucky to be joined by Richard Robinson, who's a director here at Google. In his own words, his title's changed very much, probably as fast as Google has, actually. So I'll let Richard explain exactly what his role does. Richard spent over 15 years assisting companies in building brands and the development and implementation of very innovative go-to-marketing strategies. So he's an awful lot of experience. I know he's a very seasoned speaker, speaks an awful lot. He's the chair of the IDM, the Institute of Digital Media and Marketing, I think that is, B2B Marketing Council. And prior to joining Google, Richard was vice president at IDC, where he led IDC consulting and marketing services across I think both Europe and the EMEA region, so including the Middle East. So we're very, very lucky to have Richard here with us today. He's mentioned to me very briefly the detail that his speech is going to go into, and I think you're going to find it incredibly interesting for the vision that both Richard and Google have for the internet and its future. So without further ado, welcome Richard.
Thank you very much, Matt. And first of all, I'd like to welcome you all here to Google. Have you had a good day so far? Yeah? What do you think of our facilities? Okay?
Nice view.
Yeah? Nice view. Is that because you're looking at me? No? Fantastic. Well, you know, it's an absolute privilege for us to be able to host so many of you here today. And thank you for taking the time to stay after lunch to listen to me. When Matt says I speak a lot, he actually means I talk a lot. So I'll try and keep it quite lively and quite pacey around this, if that's okay. What I'd like to do today is talk to you a little bit around navigating the digital revolution. I believe the agenda today has actually gone through in quite some detail about things around digital marketing, around the propositions that your hosts here today are building and bringing to market. What I'd like to do is maybe start with taking a slightly more macro view. Kind of what's happening, how have we got where we are today from a digital environment, talk a little bit around the digital transformations and why that's important, what's happening to consumers out there and customers out there, whether you're in the B2B or the B2C market. Then talk a little bit around the impact of digital. Now, a lot of us talk around, digital's really important and we're all doing it all of the time. We're always online. But what does that mean in hard numbers? How are businesses transforming themselves? What does that mean to the UK economy as a whole? So I'll spend a little bit of time talking about that. I'll also highlight a couple of things that are happening in the future and in fact, what's happening today and what you need to be aware of. And then I hope you'll allow me the slight luxury of speaking a little bit around what Google's doing at the moment, a couple of the key projects we're working on, a couple of the key themes that we see coming down the line that we believe is going to impact how we act as individuals, how we act as business buyers, and as consumers as well. Does that sound okay? Interesting, nobody asleep yet? You didn't have a big lunch, did you? You just, I'll get people to turn the lights on. So maybe let's start with digital transformations, and I've kind of subtitled this, is the future's here, and it absolutely is here. The way that we act, the way that we react, the way that we engage has been completely transformed over the last few years. The way that we are finding information, the way that we are consuming information has completely changed, and that's been down to digitalization. The way that the internet has impacted our lives is quite phenomenal. So let's have a look at some of the numbers. I work for Google, we're a data business, lots of numbers in slides, so apologies about that. If we go back to 2009, there were about 1.5 billion people online. Today, that's up to about 2.4 billion people. So there's a huge acceleration there. In fact, back in 2000, there was only somewhere around 360 million people online. Out of a population of 7 billion people around the world today, we're seeing dramatic growth in the number of people that can get online. And why is that important? Well, they're getting online because they can find information that they need. They can actually entertain themselves. They can actually engage with their colleagues, with their peers, with their friends, with their family. And this is actually transforming the way that we act and interact. I see 4 key pillars that are driving this. or really influencing it. The first one is around mobile. As we're moving into the next couple of years, we're seeing the transition from basically a desk-based internet experience into a mobile internet experience. I see around the room there's a couple of you that are about my age. There's many of you a lot younger. A couple of you about my age. Do you remember the times when you used to have to go and get online? You would physically go to a different room and get online. You may even say, Mum, can you get off the telephone because I want to use the internet? Okay, I'm lying about the mum bit. I'm older than that. But it's that sort of thing. It has transformed from that static location, single device approach to a multi-device approach on the go. That is changing the way that we're behaving. And as brands and as marketeers and as business owners, you need to understand that. I'll talk a little bit more about mobile later. The second key thing that I see that's driving is around data, the explosion of data. I remember there was some stats a couple of years ago in 2010, there were 5 exabytes of data created in the world. Now, I don't know about, 300 exabytes of data created in the world. I don't know about you guys. I don't know what an exabyte of data is. Anyone got a clue? Nobody going to put their hand up? No, well, it's 10 to the power of 18. Again, that means nothing to me. But an engineer told me that, well, if you think 300 exabytes of data in 1 year, between the beginning of time and 2003, only 5 exabytes of data were created. So in 2010, we were doing everything that we'd done for the whole period of humanity within two and a half days or so. What does that mean? It means that all of us are becoming media companies. Any company is a media company because we're creating content. Any individual is becoming a media company because we're creating content. How many people watch videos on YouTube, for example? Yeah, most of you. How many of you have uploaded a video onto YouTube? Well, that's quite a few of you. That's very good. We see that there's 100 hours of video uploaded on YouTube every single minute. 100 hours every minute. Now, to me, that strikes me there's a lot of skateboarding cats and dogs out there. But what is actually happening is a lot of people are actually using it as a destination, not only for entertainment, but also for storing their information as well. I've got a 13-year-old son. And sorry, it's not going to be a confession, but I do have a 13-year-old son. And he can get his mobile phone, take a video, it's not costing me anything, plug it and upload that video onto YouTube. Takes a couple of minutes, doesn't cost anything, and suddenly that content is accessible by 2.5 billion people. So what we're seeing here is the democratization of information and content creation, and then the dissemination of that. And again, it's that democratization of information gathering that the internet has allowed us all to have. So whether I'm just interested in understanding how to replace or build a shed, or what product to buy, or where to go to the cinema, or where to go and eat at a particular type of restaurant. Today, that whole process has been shortened and it's been democratized because I can find that information very easily through the web. The third key pillar that I'm seeing is around e-commerce transactions. We see research that shows that over 60% of all internet users in Europe are buying products and solutions online. Hands up those in the room that have bought something online. Yeah, most of you. Has anyone bought anything really big online? You often hear about people buying Ferraris and things like that. Has anyone bought a house online? No? Am I pitching too high there? A sofa online? Yeah, we've got Nick. Thank you. I was worried where that was going. So people are making big purchases online today. And that's really important. If you're in the business where you are selling product, you need to think about what your e-commerce strategy is. I speak to a lot of companies that they make bricks or they sell big bags of sand or anything like this. And they say, well, nobody wants to buy that stuff online. They absolutely do. And if you can deliver that, then you should have an e-commerce strategy around that as well. The final pillar is around social. And to me, social media is quite interesting because social media is the internet catching up with real life. I don't know if anyone else feels like this. 10 years ago, if I had a bad joke, or I had a great customer experience, or even worse, a bad customer experience, I would tell my network. I would tell the people that are close to me. Today, I'm just simply doing that via social media, and it's amplifying that dramatically. Now, for marketers and for businesses, that's a great opportunity because you can start to use your customers as advocates for your business by getting that message out there. However, there's also a downside. If you have poor customer service, if your product isn't very good, then social media can have a negative impact on that as well. I always think that companies, there's kind of 4 bits for a strategy, a digital strategy, and it's the 4 S's. It's around getting your site right, it's getting search right, it's getting syndication right, which is getting to where all your customers already are, and then the final one's social. And there's different layers of how you can work in social in terms of just active listening or participation or actually driving that content. And each one of you will have a different idea on what's right for your business. But I thoroughly recommend that companies are out there and individuals are out there at least listening to what their customers are saying. So what are the key pillars that are driving technology over recent years? What's driving this internet penetration growth? What's driving all of our appetite, excuse me, our appetite for consuming digital content? Well, there's a couple of key things. The first one's around computational power. There's something that many of you be aware of, Moore's law, which is the doubling of technology speed, the speed of technology and computational power every 18 months. So that means that the technology itself is getting better and it's getting faster. The mobile phone in my pocket today is more computational power than it took to land a man on the moon. It's more computational power than was in my PC only a couple of years ago. So technology is advancing very quickly. The second area is around storage, and this for me is around that everyone's becoming a media company issue. So what we see is through Kreider's law is every 18 months the processing power for storage is doubling in terms of the space. So we're able to create and store a lot more information. Linking this together with cloud computing, where you no longer necessarily need to have great big servers in your own building to store all of this data, you can store it elsewhere, is being a dramatic growth on that as well. But there is one thing that's really inhibited the growth of technology or the growth of digital in my mind. And I'm just wondering if any of you recognize this sound. Go on. Oh no. Yeah. This is the sound of my youth. Yes. So this is the dial-up sound. And do any of you know that BT have only just announced that they're going to stop this service? I'm a bit worried now that maybe somebody in the room is already using it. But that's been around for, 15, 20 years maybe. And we started off with the internet speed there of about 14 kilobytes per second. Back then, that was great. It's amazing. You could have access to something. But literally, it went alongside, I have to go into a different room and a different environment to dial up to get online. But that has actually, basically, with just the introduction of broadband, 10 or so years ago, but basically the technology and the speed and access has been pretty similar. In the UK, the average broadband speed is about 9 megabytes per second, something like that. I'm on a very well-known brand's broadband in my home, and unfortunately I dream of getting that, and I'm on their top-level service. So it's a real problem. The speed of access is a problem. And why is that a problem for companies? Well, if you think about your own website, if people come online and come to your website and your page doesn't load within 3 seconds, 50% of those people will go somewhere else. If people have a bad experience on your website, 79% of them will not come back to your website. So just think about the speed and think about the way that your website's set up. But what we're seeing now is that there's going to be this next transformation, which is going to be around fiber speed. And this is moving from 14 kilobytes per second up to a gigabyte per second. And just think about how we can engage online, what we can do around that, what you as companies can do and engage with your customers once the speeds are at that level. So that's the key pillar that we're looking to develop and is being developed today. And this is the next hockey stick in our view in terms of internet growth and penetration. So let's change speed a little bit here and talk just for a moment about the impact of digital. What we've seen is back in 2010, Boston Consulting Group did some research on the UK economy and identified that over 7% of GDP is down to the internet economy in the UK. The research forecasted out that by next year, 2015, that will be in excess of 10% of our economy will be driven by the internet. That's phenomenal. The research also highlighted that companies that adopted the internet and fully embraced the internet are likely to grow between 4 and 8 times quicker than companies that haven't embraced the internet and digital technology. They're 26% more profitable. They're actually slightly larger in terms of the number of employees they have. And they are likely to have twice as much revenue coming from outside of the UK than those companies that haven't as well. So the internet is absolutely driving business. You couple the speed of technology, the advancements of technology, how your website looks, the e-commerce platform you've got in there as well, with the way that there's this groundswell of people going online to buy products and services. It's really important to understand that and build a strategy around. And again, this broadband thing, 1% increase in the population that has high-speed internet access, 10% drives 1% in GDP. So again, there's a real momentum, in my view, about how this is moving forward and the next phase of the internet. So I've talked quite a lot about the past and what's happening or what has happened to get us where we are today. But what about today? What is going on today? My feeling is if you're standing still, if you're not looking forward, you're not planning for the future, you are actually going backwards because technology is advancing, consumer behaviors and habits are advancing. Our expectations are so much higher today than they were before. It wouldn't surprise me, that stat I gave you about the 3-second rule on your website and people go off, whether that will shorten over time. So you need to understand what this means and what consumers are expecting. Today, I go into, whether I go into a store or go onto a mobile website or a browser or a full-blown website, or on a call center, I want the same level of service. I want the same interaction. I want the same brand experience across all of those channels. So building a strategy today to meet those needs and requirements of your customers is really, really important. But the big thing that's changing is around mobiles. So hands up those in the room that have got a smartphone, so an Android, an OS, that sort of thing. Okay, pretty much everyone, in fact, everyone. Sorry, keep your hands up. Okay. Can you put your hand down if you, how am I going to say this? Keep your hand up if you had a smartphone 4 years ago. Okay, there's quite a few. 6 years ago. I think I might put my hand down for that. Okay. So just see, thank you for that, just see the development of this. The IAB predicted that by the end of last year, 75% of the UK population will have smartphones. What does this mean? This means that we're taking our computing technology with us, our internet access with us. This is where local and mobile really, really come together. So if you've got a store or you've got an outlet, you can now understand where people are. And people are looking, when they're looking for your products and solutions, you can target them when they're nearby. This is a dramatic change. We're seeing, or in fact, ComScore have said that well over a third of all page views on the internet today are coming from mobile devices. Our feeling is that, from Google research perspective, Google search perspective, what we're seeing is in some categories, we're at a tipping point where more searches are coming from mobile devices than they are coming from any other type of device. So go home, go back to work after this, have a look at your web page and your analytics and understand how many people are visiting my website from mobile devices. And then, a little trick here, go onto your website via your mobile phone and see what that experience is like. Again, significant numbers of people will have a bad mobile experience and that will have a negative impact on their perception of your brand. So think about that. Hands up those in the room that have got a tablet. Okay, I really mean an iPad. Everyone's got an iPad. Okay, most people have got tablets. By the end of this year, eConsultancy are predicting that 50% of the UK population will have tablet computers. Only in 2011 was that 12%. So we've gone from 12% of the population to 50% of the population. Again, understanding the different devices that people are accessing information and accessing your websites on is critical to be able to provide them that level of service. So start to think about mobile-specific websites. Think about responsive design websites once you've got to a certain level in terms of the amount of traffic coming through that. So this is what's happening today. And if you're not planning for mobile, you're actually planning to fail. My personal feeling is that mobile will be the internet access device of choice for the majority of people in the UK very, very quickly. So think about that. So now, hopefully, you'll let me indulge myself in a little bit in talking about where we see the future is going and what we see is going to happen, and a couple of the projects that we're working on. So let me start by, up front, I had the stat up there, there's 2.5 billion people online today. But that means there's somewhere around about 5 billion people that don't have access to the internet. And in some countries, it's actually really difficult to start putting that infrastructure in place. So at Google, we've got this concept and this idea that we call 10x. So we look to change things not by 1%, not by 10%, but by 10 times. So making things a lot bigger, a lot faster, a lot better. On the fiber internet access, for example, 18 months or so ago, we basically launched Google Fiber in a city in the US, in Kansas City, where we were able then to move internet speeds from relatively 6 or 9 megabytes up to a gigabyte per second. This is another of our big bets, our 10x projects, which is called Project Loon. And this is, what we're trying to think about here is how do we get more people online? How do we enable more people to have the advantage of having access to the internet and to be able to transform their lives through that? So what we've done is we're running an experiment where we create these hot air balloons, these kind of weather-style balloons, and we put them up in the upper stratospheres. And we almost create kind of leap pads of all of these balloons up there. And the winds are very, very predictable. So you can actually tell, you predict very closely in terms of when one will, the speed at which these balloons will move. But the important thing about these balloons is that they're basically Wi-Fi enabled devices. So they're basically opening up internet access to remote areas of the world, so that they've got the Wi-Fi capability and it's beamed down to particular stations, and then people can get access to that. And again, as the one balloon moves out of an area, another one comes in, so it's continuous access. And that's really important because we are looking at the 10x project of getting the next 7 or getting the next 5 billion people online. What's interesting is we obviously chose a particularly remote and less developed country to test this in. So we went to New Zealand. So hopefully there's no Kiwis in the room. But again, this is a live experiment that's taking place today. It's not being recorded, this, is it? So. The second thing that we see that's really big and is dramatic change is that we're going from somebody typing in a query in their browser, in their search engine, to you as an individual becoming the query. And computationally, this is incredibly complex. And it's bringing in lots of information, geospatial, behavioral, contextual information of social networks and things like that. And bringing that together so that I don't have to ask for things anymore. It's starting to understand what is important to me and what I'm interested in. These are just some screenshots from something called Google Now. Has anyone got an Android phone in the room? Or is it just me? No? Okay. Largest operating system. Anyway, so there's a few of you. And what you can get on the latest versions of Android is Google Now. And literally, you just get your phone and you flick upwards. And it gives information that is relevant to you. It understands where you are. It understands what your usual habits and movements are. It understands what's in your calendar. And it starts to bring all of these things together. So if I can't demo this, but I'll give you an example. So I'm going into my phone now. I'm going into Google now. And it's telling me that at 1 o'clock I'm supposed to be here. That's great. I made it on time. It's telling me, and it's an hour and 45 minutes to get home from here. It's not suggesting I go home at 2 o'clock every day. It's telling me that it's one of my friends that I'm linked in with on Google+. It's their birthday. Some shares I'm following. It's telling me the Olympics are on, as if I didn't know. And the weather and places nearby, and an exhibition at the the National Portrait Gallery. So that all of that information, it understands who I am, it understands the context, and it's starting to feed that back to me. That's a dramatic shift from me going on and saying, when's the next train to Sunningdale? Or what are the local restaurants? The computational power that's involved in that is tremendous. But that's almost irrelevant. It's about how personalized it is to me. And we're seeing a real movement in personalization of information. In terms of running your business and how personalization is important, start to think about customizing the information you're showing to people that are coming to your website or that are reading your newsletters or anything like that at all. Start to think about what are the signals you can take from those individuals and start to customize the information you're sharing with them rather than completely blasting stuff. From an advertising perspective, think about behavioral targeting and remarketing. So somebody's come to your website, you know where they've been on your website, and then think, okay, well, they've looked at this page, therefore they are more or less likely to be interested in this topic, and then customizing them, that information to them. So personalization is absolutely key, and this whole behavioral piece as well. Does that make sense? Yeah? Cool. Still with me? Great. The next key trend that we're seeing is the movement to wearable technology. So I always use the analogy that I've never seen anybody go into a pub with their laptop and say, oh, look at my nice new laptop. Has anyone seen that? Probably not. Some people go into the pub with their new phone and say, look, I've got the new iPhone. I forgot what it was called. iPhone, and look what it can do, and it's red or yellow or whatever color it might be. So that's a personal piece of technology, and it's the most personal piece of technology most of us have today. However, we're seeing this movement to where technology is actually becoming part of us. So rather than taking something out of my pocket, I can now do that via my Samsung Gear internet-enabled watch. I can do that by something like Google Glass. I can do that and understand and collect information by wearing my Fitbit around my wrist, that sort of stuff. So wearable technology is absolutely coming. And I'm not saying that this is what it's going to look like, but it's one way of doing that. So start thinking about how technology is becoming more personal. And you start to tie together wearable technology that's very, very personal. I mean, glass that's only, 1/8 of an inch away from your eye. How personal is that? You start linking that with predictive technology and that's been fed through to you about understanding who you are, and it's very personalized. That becomes very, very powerful and will change the way that we're interacting online. Has anyone seen Google Glass? Has anyone tried Google Glass on? I haven't got a pair, unfortunately. I'm not that senior. But maybe I could just show a video that could give you an idea of what it actually entails. So, can we roll the video, please?
Okay, Glass, record a video.
This is it. We're on in 2 minutes.
Okay, Glass, hang out with the Flying Club.
Google photos of tiger heads. You ready? You ready?
Right there. Okay, Glass, take a picture.
delicious in Thai?
อร่อย
Aroy.
Google jellyfish.
Let's see.
It's beautiful.
So from that, hopefully that gives you a little bit of an experience in terms of how immersive digital will become as part of our lives. At some stage, no doubt, we will all have a chip implanted somewhere, but let's not kind of move down that far just yet. But by being able to use wearable technology, it can transform the way that you're interacting with each other online, but also directly to find information. I was speaking with a company where they've taken Google Glass as a demo product, and they're trying to figure out how they can, or they're building a program to figure out how they can actually use it within a warehouse environment so that people can move product around and just scan the barcode through the glass without having to have a big device with them. So they can start to use both hands in the warehouse environment. There's good examples about how surgeons actually in the US are starting to use this, so they can live broadcast to other surgeons in their hospital network operations that they're doing, so they can actually see into what they're doing and share that experience with other people. So again, these are the things and ways that technology is moving forward and will leapfrog the way that we are interacting online with both in a business and in a consumer sense. I wish I had a pair that I could show you all, but unfortunately I don't. So I don't know if anyone's seen this either, and this is obviously it's a contact lens, and it's something that we announced only a week or two ago, where what we've done is that, as I said, we believe data is at the heart of everything and is fundamentally important to the way that we're advancing society. And we've created this contact lens in which there's a tiny, tiny little sensor and battery. The battery's around here, and this is the sensor. And it means that it can actually test and analyze tears in your eye. And it's analyzing that to understand levels of sugars in your system. And it's been developed to help in the treatment of diabetes. So again, this is where technology is getting very, very small, but which enables us, enables people to do things that we couldn't have thought of before. So again, this is almost like your heart rate monitor, but not just about your heart rate, it's actually looking at your blood glycogen levels or your glycogen levels as well. So again, microscopic technology being brought into play. And this has been trialled already, and it's a fantastic development in terms of the next stage of healthcare and the fact or the way that technology and digital technology can do this. So this is basically taking data every second and then broadcasting that back to a central source where that data can be analysed for the healthcare of the patient. So what we're actually moving to is no longer are we talking about the 300 million or the 1.5 billion or the 2.5 billion people being online. That's important, but we're actually starting to see a lot more connected devices. A Morgan Stanley report said that in 2012 there were 8 billion connected devices in the world or something like that. By 2020, that will be 80 billion devices that are connected. We start to think about having a connected fridge in our house that tells us that we're low on milk, or that the bag of salad that I bought 3 weeks ago from Marks and Spencer's really should be thrown out. We start to get that intelligence actually coming in and that data being shared. We recently purchased a company that creates or builds smoke detectors and thermostats in your home. But the important piece about that is it's using technology to understand people's behaviors and then actually start to feed that together and build a picture and enable our lives to get better, so that now you can remotely understand that, or remotely trigger, I'm coming home slightly earlier, it's colder than I anticipated, therefore I can get my heating to turn on more quickly or not turn on at all, depending. So we're starting to see that movement of the connections of everything, or the Internet of Things. And moving from 8 billion to 80 billion connected devices is going to be a huge shift in the way that we act and react online. So finally, just pulling this together, it's a bit of a bold statement. Digital businesses win, but they do. We've seen the research that shows that organizations that fully embrace digital are growing at up to 8 times quicker. They're up to 26% more profitable. Their revenue, overseas revenue, tends to be double, that sort of thing. So it's really important. But what do we mean? What are the core pillars that you need to be thinking about in your business? Well, first of all, it's around digital marketing. You need to understand how digital marketing can play a role in that. If you do that well, you're able to capture the right audience, bring those people to your site. Mobile enabled is critical. As I said before, mobile will be the de facto internet access device of choice. So think about your mobile strategy. How are you engaging with people via mobile devices? Third one is around good use of content, good use of video in particular. Think about how you're engaging. We talk a lot around storytelling, about how you can bring people on a journey, and whether they're looking for a broad topic all the way through to a specific about how your product or service works. Think about how video can play a role in that. I often use the example of, or the thought of, if a picture tells 1,000 words, how many words is a 2-minute video worth? I mean, it's phenomenally important. The next key element is around data, using data and analytics. We strongly believe that you should have decisions based upon data, not necessarily based upon gut. So think about the data that you're getting within your business. Look at your analytics on your website. Understand where people are coming, where they're dropping off, the bounce rates, the customer journey on your website, and revise and develop your site for doing that. Give it a quick example about data. Does anyone know the reason why the color blue is so important to Google? It's the first G in Google, so that's kind of important. No ideas? Well, the color blue is the color of the sponsored links that you see on our search results page. And how do we make money? We make money by people clicking on those links. So the color blue is kind of important. There was a debate in our marketing team, as there always is in marketing teams, about 2 different shades of blue that we had. So on our one ad platform, we had one shade of blue, and on the other, it was a slightly different shade of blue. And we had marketeers over here saying, I really love the greeny blue that we've got on here. It's warm and it's cozy and it makes me feel free. And the guys over here said, well, I really like the more purple shade on it. It's great. It's a bit sharper, a bit cleaner. And marketeers, you know what these creative types are like, can talk around this all the time, and both of them are absolutely right. So what we did is we actually put it to the test. And we tested 42 different shades of blue. 42 different shades of blue just on those links. And we found one that people are slightly, just fractionally more likely to click on than any other shade of blue. That's resulted in us having an additional $200 million of revenue per year, just purely by looking and testing and learning. So a key thing for me is, if you've got a website, test and learn. Run testing on it, A/B tests, multivariate tests. I worked with a company whose main logo color was red. So of course, all of the buttons and the actions on their website were red. Somebody rather bravely said, I know what, we should probably try a different color. And they managed to persuade somebody that they'd try a different color. They changed it to green, saw a 50% increase in click-throughs on that one button alone. They changed the word from contact us to contact me, saw a 49% increase in the number of people clicking on that button to actually contact them. So run and test and use data to inform your business. And then finally, think about how cloud computing can help your business as well. Think about collaboration through the cloud, how businesses can break down their silos by using technology that is open and collaborative to do that. Shareable access to documents and such like. So think about those processes. So marketing, mobile, use data, use video, and collaborative technologies are really key. That brings to an end what I wanted to talk to you about today. I hope that was of interest. You're all still awake, well, most of you anyway, which is good. And I think, are we open for questions now, or are you going to wrap this?
Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you very much to Richard. Personally, I'm ever so slightly relieved that my story about the blue at Google was the right figure.
Oh, did you
recounted the exact story earlier on, but it's 42 shades, which I now know for the future. So I think we've got a few minutes left. Let's open the floor to some Q&A. If anybody's got a particular question, we've got someone at the back and a microphone. Barney, if you could take care of that.
On the back row.
And please feel free to ask any questions of either Richard, myself, Stefan, Nick, any of the presenters that you've seen today.
Thank you for a very interesting speech. We've heard from all the presentations this morning that content is key. Obviously, you are head of content there for Google, perhaps. Mm-hmm. What tips do you advise all of us in the room to remain competitive?
Around content itself?
Yeah, content key, search engine optimization.
Yeah, I'm not a search engine optimization expert. In our business, we have church and state. We have the guys that know the secret, and then you have me. And if I knew the secret, I'd be very wealthy. But tips are, be genuine to your customers and users. Absolutely be user first. All of our business is based around the user, i.e. you people going onto Google, not necessarily you people paying us money to drive traffic to your website. So be genuine about the customer. Don't get caught up in any grey arts of SEO, of link farms, or anything like that at all, because the way that the algorithm works, it changes incredibly regularly and can impact your business quite badly if you're found to be doing any of those type of activities. In terms of content, again, I speak a lot about video, and I truly believe video is important. But there's some research by an agency, I think it was iProspect, I might be wrong on that, but an agency did some research where they figured out that video content is 57 times more likely to get on the front page of a Google search result than text content will, as an example. So think about the rich media content that you're developing. Think about how you're how you're linking to other sites and other sites are linking to you, and think about the influencer strategy you've got as well, again on the SEO side. But the key tip is be open and honest and put the customer at the heart of your strategy. And if you develop content that is interesting and engaging for your customers will come. And that's basically the end game, isn't it, to get the customers to your site.
Thank you. More questions? Come on, 4 hours sitting in the chairs. There's a mic coming from just behind you there.
I'm quite intrigued how your balloons, how do you get the balloon project in New Zealand? How is that Wi-Fi enabled without obvious power sources or?
So you're asking me a technical question. Yeah. So I said the SEO bit and me. We've got the technology bit.
I know,
and
but it's too fascinating. That.
Yeah. So we've got a whole blog post about it. So I'd recommend you just search Project Loon in Google, and if we don't come up in the search results, let me know, 'cause we should do. But yeah, there's a lot of solar panel stuff that's going on in that device as well. But it's fascinating. A colleague of mine spent 4 weeks over there.
Another question quickly on those stats about mobile and tablet penetration. Those are from where, and they relate to which year? Sorry.
So the 75% is an IAB forecast stat for the end of 2013, the Internet Advertising Bureau, and that was their forecast for 2013. The 50% stat on penetration is for the end of this year. I think that's from eConsultancy, but I'll come back and confirm that to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't usually get picked up on stats.
Just there. If we could just wait for a mic just so that everybody can hear you, that would be great.
Sorry, thank you. Just a quick question really about the mobile sites. Should we now be designing websites around mobile phones then, rather than traditionally around a browser page on a notebook or a laptop.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's two approaches. Well, there's three approaches. The first approach is don't do anything. Don't recommend that. Don't recommend that at all. Second approach is you could do mobile-specific sites, and a lot of companies are doing that. So, as soon as you understand that this person is coming from a mobile device, you give them that particular mobile site, and that can work and be very, very effective. And then the third strategy is actually to use responsive design, which basically your site recognizes what kind of device they're coming from, and it scales and reduces accordingly. Whichever of the latter two you choose, it's your choice. My absolute recommendation is you've got to think about doing one or the other. Responsive design seems to be a very sensible approach to me.
That seems to be where everyone is at the moment.
To give you some context to that, on 123reg alone, we're now seeing around about 15% of traffic from mobile. So that's 1 in every 10, or more than 1 in every 10 visitors we could lose a sale on if we weren't responsive in the design approach that we're taking. And we have a lot of work to do, like everybody else in that area, but it's growing at a phenomenal rate. You only have to think, as you wander around the break here today, you don't see people anymore opening up their laptops, getting on the Wi-Fi, doing what they need to do, but you do see an awful lot of people pulling the phones out of the pockets and reading their email and surfing the web. So,
I saw a stat yesterday, actually, it might have been reported in the Times or somewhere, that basically 62% of people, rather than having some quiet time, will get their phone out. And it's kind of like, what did you used to do? I don't know, but now I get on my phone.
Very true.
And 34% of people are buying products via their mobile phones as well, and big products. I think is it eBay that state that they're selling between 3 and 4 Ferraris a month via their mobile site.
And there's some sites, the mobile experience is better than the desktop experience. And eBay actually being the best example, if you use it on the iPad combined with PayPal, it's actually a lot easier to transact than it is on their desktop site. Any other questions? Okay, well, we'll wrap up there. Oh, sorry, one at the front. Let's grab a microphone to you so that we can all hear. Thank you.
Hi. I was just wondering whether the balloon you were showing us was one of those UFOs we keep hearing about all the time. It's just a joke. Really, I wanted to know, what's the next thing that Google's going to bring out? Do you have any inside knowledge for us?
Obviously, for trading reasons, I can't tell you the next thing. What I can say is that our strategy is mobile first and has been for some while. So that's really important. We're doing a lot of work around, as I said, in these 10x projects about things that really change the world. So we've developed a driverless car that has now done something like 150,000 miles driving around California. So we're doing things around that. The contact lens is another example of that. On a more kind of realistic approach, what we're looking at is things around creating the right technology to help businesses take advantage of the internet. So we bought a company called DoubleClick a number of years ago. So now we've got a technology stack that means you can do all of your media buying through that stack, that sort of thing. Real-time bidding technology, again, this might be a bit complex, but real-time bidding for advertising is where you actually don't just say, okay, I want to appear on the Guardian site or the Times or TechCrunch or whatever else it is. You use technology that will find the right site at the right price with the right audience, behavioral and similar users, that sort of thing, and do that all for you. So a big play. Google is a data company. It's a technology company. So all of our efforts are in using technology to make people's lives better and easier. So I think I avoided answering the question well there.
Well worked, Richard. Well, look, thank you very much for taking the time out of your diaries to listen to us all today. I hope you found it of maximum interest. Certainly Twitter seems to indicate that you have. So very much appreciated. Please enjoy the goodie bags. Join me in thanking all of our presenters one more time. Thank you. And thank you once again for joining us.